Hi, my name is Arunama and I work as a social business consultant with YUNUS Social Business Balkans. Today we are going to talk about social businesses and the social impact models that they follow. So why is it important for us to understand the concept of a social business and what would be the end results of our lecture today? So to give you an understanding, it is important for us to understand how a business moves from being pure profit to also into the lines of social impact, which is what we're going to study today. And how do you look at the solution and the problem? And what are the different types of models that you can follow in your construction of this business? We would also be looking at a few case studies from around the world. And I hope it would provide you inspiration while you're looking for your own social business models. So to start with, what would be the end result of this lecture? It would give you an understanding of different models of social businesses around the world. I hope it would give you a better understanding of your own social business model, about if you have a business already, what kind of model are you following, or if you would like to construct one in future, what would be the structure of the same. Third, we hope that it would provide you with information about how to combine your business model, for example, a business model canvas, with your social impact. And if you were to fit your social impact into your BMC, how would that happen? And secondly, how do you integrate your profit formula with your social impact? So these are the 4 key results of this particular lecture. We would also be talking about a few case studies and how have they been implemented successfully around the world, and a few red flags that you often see in these models. So when we start off, let's start with the first problem that a business, or in our case, a social business would have, is how do you frame the issue? A lot of businesses start with the hope of doing well. Now, what is important is for us to understand that what do we mean by doing well, and is it the same thing as doing good? In the earlier days, let's just say in a pure capitalistic society, you would have old school corporations whose single idea of being good or doing well would be profit margins. And then there would be a totally different sphere of the ecosystem where there would be not-for-profits or NGOs whose only way of doing well would be to have social impact. So if you look at the slide, there's the graph where you have the maximum profit potential and then you have the maximum social impact potential. The people that we are targeting and the people that we would like to be are somewhere in the second quadrant, for whom doing well is having a great profit potential and having a great social impact potential as well. The world is no longer as separated that you will do well if you have profit or you will do well if you have social impact. In one of the readings that would be subscribed with the lecture, there is a wonderful article by Harvard Business Review where it says that social innovation is the way that for-profit corporations are coming up with new products, because you realize that you only have so many potential clients. And how you increase those potential clients is by making sure that your products are serving every sphere of the system. You don't just look after people who are high income group or mid-range income group, but you also look at the bottom of the pyramid, and that is where social innovation is taking place. So social innovation, social impact is not just a good thing to have, but it is also driving profits in day-to-day basis. So to give an example of how entrepreneurs would like to look at social business is that it is the mid-layer between a for-profit organization and an NGO. And the place where both of these circles combine is the place where social innovation takes place. And we're going to talk more about how does this model progress. So if we talk about the approach of defining a social impact, let's take a 2-step approach. This is your slide 5. So first you define your problem. To clear it out, our beneficiaries are not always our customers. Your beneficiaries can be your customers, but it's not always the case. So for us to look at this point of view, we're going to talk about how both things combine, beneficiaries and customers, later in a few slides. But so when we're talking about the problem here, let's focus on the problem, and we can think about beneficiaries and customers later. So there would be 4 things that you would be answering. 1, who are the people? Whose problem is it? What is the problem? Why is the problem? And what are the consequences of these problems? Yeah. So for example, there are people who live with less than $2 a day in the world. What problem do they have? Their eating habits are not healthy enough for the children to sustain or grow properly. They do not have enough nutrients. Why is the problem there? Because nutrient-rich food are expensive and not easily available in the market. What are the consequences? There's a high infant mortality rate. Children are not growing well. They are sick often. So this is to just give an example. This is a hypothetical situation, I hope. So this is how you would define your problem. And what happens is when you have a solution to this problem, you can use this solution in your classical business tools to then think of it as a business model. So the second step is going to move this problem definition into your business model canvas. And I hope we know what a business model canvas is. Otherwise, again, in your reading list, you will find a very good article explaining the business model canvas and the steps you should follow in filling it up. So when you combine your social impact into your business model canvas, that is the best case scenario. So we are going to talk more about how do you define your problems, and we're going to take a minute or 2 for you to decide what problem are you targeting in your business or your future business, and what are the advantages of doing it. So as I mentioned, who, why, consequences, 3 things. Your slide 6 has another example of the same. So it's important for you to define the context of the problem, the industry it's working in, and the scale. This would give you an understanding of the ecosystem that you're working in, and it's truly, truly essential for 2 reasons. 1, if you do not understand your beneficiaries, if you've not spoken to them, then how do you know what the real problem is? And you then, as in case of any business, come up with a product that your beneficiaries might or might not value. So it's to adapt your solution to your beneficiaries. It's truly important to know what your solution and your problem is. And second, in the case that your problem has multiple stakeholders, it would give you an opportunity to address all these stakeholders. For example, if we consider the example that's there on slide 6, who is experiencing the problem? Households who have less than $2 a day. Why is the problem occurring? Because the current stoves are inefficient and they emit gases which are unhealthy and are harming the people around it. And what are the consequences? People are sick, they have to spend a lot of money in repairing it, they have to spend a lot of money in refueling it. So these are one group of stakeholders to this problem, the people who are suffering. Now there's another stakeholder to this problem, for example, the environmental activists. They know that these stoves are causing problems and they are emitting gases which are not very helpful to the ecosystem, and they might be interested as well. We can also consider health officials who have to deal with the consequences of this particular problem. So once you know your problem and solution, it is much easier for you to talk to them. And something that we have in the marketing world is that if you never talk to your beneficiaries and stakeholders, how will you ever know how to talk to them? How will you ever market your product out? Yeah. So this was the step 1. Now, there's another example on your slide 7. So, for example, it's in education that the students in France have a gap when they enter primary school. And why we talk about what the problem is, that there's a gap in education when they enter secondary school in France. Who are these people? They come from mid to low income group families. Who are these people? They come from blue collar families with low to mid income group and lower income neighborhoods around the big cities. Why is the problem there? because the parents do not have any money resources, financial or time-wise, to support the students in their studying. And what are the consequences of this problem? Is that these children are never truly integrated in the schooling system. They do not take the best advantages to it, so there's a clear learning gap between what the school is teaching them and what they're learning, which eventually ends in them not having employable, which eventually ends in them not being employed, which then leads into them taking a different aspect of life. They dabble in drugs, in violence, and not using their abilities to the best. So that was another example. I think we can take 2-3 minutes right now to talk about your problem definition. There's an empty slide, please use that. And we would like to talk about what your problem is, who are facing the problem, why is the problem there, and what are the consequences of this problem. Yeah. So now that you have your problem definition, let's talk about how does your problem definition fit into your business model. So on the slide 9 is an ordinary business model canvas. You can get an editable form of it online. There's also a link for it in the readables later. So if you consider business model canvas, for example, if you are providing healthy yogurt, nutritious yogurt to children, where would your product be and how would you put it here? Is it related to the cost structure, which means are you providing it at a less than market rate that is giving more access to these children? Is it the way that you're selling it, that are people going home to home and selling it? Or is it the customer segment that you're targeting, bottom of the pyramid? Or is it the people who are making it, which talks about key resources? Or is it the people that you're trying to sell it with? So there's so many different ways that you can fit your solution into the business model. And to give you an example, Shakti Doi is one of the biggest social businesses and the most quoted example all over the world. And this is a doi which is it's a yogurt which is being manufactured in Bangladesh. And it is being produced by a village, and a few communities come together to produce this yogurt. And this yogurt is being sold by women of these communities. And these women go door to door, or they have the small kiosks in which they carry these yogurts. These yogurts have more nutrients than normal. They're fortified with extra nutrients because that's the kind of nutrients that children are lacking in that region. And they're being manufactured by these communities. They are specifically made for a certain age group, for a certain region. So they are trying to solve one very particular problem: malnutrition in children below the age of 10. See, so that is the problem. So now if you think of this particular solution, you can fit it in so many different places in your business model canvas. It can be the channels of distribution, who's selling it. It can be the cost structure, that they're selling it at a lower price. It can be the customer segment, bottom of the pyramid. So you see, this is what we started this entire lecture about, that once you have your business model, once you have your problem, then you can fit your problem and solution into various places in this business model, giving you the ability to tweak it as you feel like. The truly important bit of why you should be doing this is that when you change your business model, you know how the social impact would change as well. So you can tweak it to make it most profitable. You can tweak it to have the maximum social impact upon your wish. So as we spoke about how you can move your impact in different places on the business model canvas, it can be divided into 4 particular models. There are 4 models which are widely accepted across the world, and we're going to discuss each of them briefly. So the first one, and the most common one, is the bottom of the pyramid. So bottom of the pyramid is when you are targeting a certain section of the society for your products. Now this might be creating a need. This might be a product that they don't usually have access to. Or this might just be a better way of sampling the product for them. So for example, just to go back, bottom of the pyramid is the section of the society which is living on less than $2 or $3 a day, which puts them in borderline poverty. The key indicator of this particular business model is key impact driver is number of customers served. So in our yogurt example, it was how many children got this yogurt. So a lot of companies have been focusing on the bottom of the pyramid in recent days because they realize that their product, irrespective of how good it is, the bottom of the pyramid people do not have an access to it. It can be because of their selling power, but it's a very simple thing to realize that if you do not have a stable income, if you do not have an income that comes in every month, you cannot plan ahead. And that's something that they realized, and that's how a bottom of the pyramid usually not just comes with how do you change your model, but also how do you change your marketing techniques and things. Yeah, we're going to talk more about it with a case study. The second model would be good jobs or providing better than market opportunities in case of employment. Now, this is something which is very commonly found in areas like manufacturing and textile. In industries like these, where using labor force and paying the minimum is very, very common, there's some few social entrepreneurs who are coming up and trying to look at this as a way of getting value back into the society. The key impact driver is the number of paid jobs created. For example, it would be you providing opportunities to old women in rural areas who do handicraft. So you either give them market access, you add value to their products, and you help them sell them better. That would be one of the examples. Second example could be you having a textile industry and creating a much better working condition for women, that they have a psychiatrist, they have a cafeteria, they're looked after, they're getting paid well, and it's not a sweatshop, but it's a place where people want to be. So that's another way of creating value. Our third model would be value chain. Now, value chain is very commonly found in much larger industries like food as well, and textile. And this is when you look after your suppliers and distributors and you try to create value for them. Very simple way would be how you get, for example, if you're a jam factory, how are you getting your raw materials? And the people that you get your raw materials, you provide impact for them. The people who are distributing, you provide impact for them. In a value chain, it's simpler to connect dots, and it's much simpler for people to think of how do you improve it in a whole, that the product is the best. And this has been actively being done by bigger organizations like CNA, H&M, Zara, where they're trying to improve their value chain by making sure that their suppliers and distributors are looked after. It would also mean that they get paid on time, something that is very uncommon in long value chains, or they are getting their salaries are coming on time and things like that. And finally, the most popular model nowadays is the give back model, in which when you create a margin with your business, this margin is being used for social impact. For example, the most popular one, Tom's Shoes. Tom's Shoes has this model in which if you buy one shoe is given. The fourth model is the give back model. The most common example of give back model is Tom's Shoes. In Tom's Shoes, it is if you buy one shoe, a shoe is given to a children in an underprivileged country or a developing nation. They have recently started doing the same in the United States of America, so it's technically no longer in that category. But they can be wonderful ways of using this particular model, that if your profits out of a certain business are being funneled into another NGO which is doing something for social impact. Now, the only little point to note here in this particular model is that your margins are directly related to your social impact, or the other way around, your social impact is directly related to your margins. So if you have no profit, you will also have no social impact. So keeping that in mind, we highly encourage entrepreneurs to not focus their entire business on one of these models, but it is always recommended that you incorporate one or two models in your entire business model. Yeah. So once we move from that, let's talk about the model one, and let's do a case study on that. So the case study that we're going to do is of deco distribution. And let's do the little 4 bracket thing that we did earlier. So what is the problem that Digo is trying to solve? There is lack of clean water and sanitation in Haiti, especially after the floods. they had a severe problem in trying to find clean water. Who are the people who are suffering from this problem? The 67% of the population does not have any treatment for the water that they're drinking. They do not have access to clean sanitation. So the first case study that we will be talking about is of Model 1, and the organization is called as DIGO Distribution. So what is the problem that they're trying to solve? There is a lack of access to clean water and sanitation in Haiti. And who are the people who are suffering with this problem? So 67% of the population in Haiti does not have access to clean water. They lack basic sanitation, and 34% of them do not have any access to rudimentary toilets. So we can consider that why is this problem happening is because 78% of the population live on less than $2 a day. And cleaning products or even hygiene products are highly expensive. Most of them are imported, not being made in Haiti at all. And to give you an example, a gallon of cleaning agent for water would be $6 to $12. So on a family, which might at least drink a gallon of water a day, and they would have to buy $6 minimum, you can see the discrepancy there. Otherwise, the other cleaning agents that are easily available are the ones that are being distributed by NGOs, but again, it's on a sporadic thing, and it's not something that you can rely on. So what are the consequences of this particular problem? As imagined, with unhygienic water comes diseases. The infant mortality rate of children in Haiti is very, very high. They fall sick often, families fall sick often, and it affects them in their entirety. So what does DIGO do? DIGO Distribution produces and distributes affordable bleach for water purification and cleaning products for day-to-day cleaning and sanitation purposes. They have 3 product lines: chlorine, disinfectant, and soap. And they have used very innovative ways of selling and making their products. Why would this be a Model 1? Because DIGO is targeting the bottom of the pyramid. Why would this be the Model 1? Because DIGO is targeting the bottom of the pyramid. Their products are 3 to 6 times cheaper than the ones that are available in the market. And the competitors, for example, are selling for 6 to 12 USD, while they sell for 2 USD per gallon. And they are manufacturing in Haiti. The way that they're doing is with local population. Their marketing and selling techniques are truly innovative. Consumers have to come with their own cans and pouches to buy these products. The distribution lines are innovative. Families can take in this DIGO distribution as a kiosk and they can sell. So for example, DIGO has put in more than 99 kiosks in Haiti and they are looking for scale. So if we would like to talk about why would it be a successful Model 1 case study, is because it reaches a very large number of people and is looking for a scale of 5 million people. So it's clearly targeting the bottom of the pyramid, which does not have access to clean water there. Second, there's a very high need in the market. It's evident that clean water is not easily accessible, cleaning agents are not easily accessible, and they're providing them. They're providing the bottom of the pyramid and access to this particular product. And finally, the products are made in mind with the customers. In mind. So they sell in smaller quantities. They sell from various distribution channels. People do not have to travel a lot to buy these products. They're easily available in the market. So they're made with people who earn less, who do not have a fixed structure of income, and people who would like to have easy access to clean water. So this is a clear customer-centric focus that they have. If we would like to place DIGO in our business model canvas that we've circulated earlier. So let's talk about where does DIGO go. First, clearly DIGO goes into the customer segment that it's working with. It is looking at the bottom of the pyramid. It's looking for the lowest of the low. It is also working with a cost structure that it's selling at a lesser than market rate. And it's doing that keeping the customer segments in mind. Now I have placed DIGO in customer segments and cost structure here. But where else do you think DIGO can go? It can go into channels because it's using creative distribution channels about how to sell the products. It can go into key partners about people that it's partnering with, organizations that it's partnering with while selling this product. As important as it is to have an idea about where can your model go on a business model canvas, we would highly recommend you to take priority in one or two, so that when push comes to shove, you know which areas are getting impacted. The clear problems that a Model 1 business would have is getting a product fit. When you're trying to create a product for a market which is so homogeneous, it is always difficult to come up with the product which is going to solve problems. Second would be the product costs. Because you're trying to sell at a very nominal cost, it would be the manufacturing of this product, distribution, marketing, everything is going to be cost related, and you will try to save costs on a lot of these things. So clearly the more innovative you get, the better it would be. And these are the two key relations that they have, the product costs and the product creation. So if we then go to the second case study is for Model 2. To remind you, the Model 2 was creating better jobs. Creole Essence is a company again based out of Haiti. So Haiti has still been recovering from the earthquake and is suffering with more than 40% unemployment. And who are the people who basically suffer? They're the disabled women who do not have very strong educational backgrounds, who've never been into the employment sector. And with no clear skills, they find it very hard to get integrated into the society again. Why is this a problem? Because there are no clear, safe employment opportunities for women. This problems with insecurity and violence against women makes them very hesitant to go back into the workforce. Also, Haitian culture is very reluctant to let disabled people back into the workforce, keeping in mind that there's such a high rate of unemployment. The disabled and the women always get the least preference. So what are the consequences? That women strive for financial independence in order to get normal day-to-day essentials for their family, food, water, clean amenities, and it's always a struggle. So if you look at Creole Essence is an agribusiness that manufactures and produces products, hair care and skincare products made out of castor oil. Castor oil is an oil very particularly made in Haiti, and they make these products based out of organic and unrefined castor oil, which is harvested in Haiti. Creole Essence has a factory that is based out of Haiti where they manufacture and they basically export their products to the United States, France, and Europe. So Creole Essence produces they have 8 lines of products, and they work with several methods to produce different kinds of products with castor oil. It can be hair masks, soaps, etc. And these products are sold worldwide on the website. So what makes Creole Essence a good example of Model 2? For example, it is as we mentioned, the key impact indicator is the number of direct jobs and the indirect jobs created. And if you look at the numbers, clear explanation, with 219 employees this year, it is clearly creating an impact in an ecosystem where women are not being employed. They look at employment not only in the manufacturing, but the entire supply chain. Who's managing the website, who's managing the packaging, distribution, accounts. And they have managed to provide a healthy work environment to a number of disabled people and women in Haiti. And this not only encourages this population to get back into employment, but provides them an opportunity to gain skills where they can move on to better jobs, where they can move on to jobs closer to home, things like that. So in an ecosystem like Haiti, Creole Essence is clearly leaving an impact. So if you would like to think, again, back to the business model canvas and where does Creole Essence stand, take a moment before you go to the next slide. So Creole Essence stands in 2 things. One is the key resources, which is your employees, who are also your beneficiaries in this case, who are refining the castor oil and making the products. And second is the revenue streams. Because it is so essential for you to look after your revenue streams if you're trying to create impact and your employees are your beneficiaries, you would always focus upon being sustainable so that you do not lose your social impact. So you see, it's a two-way relationship, which is why no matter how much we say, it's truly, truly essential for a social business to be sustainable. And there are also different ways of channels that can be targeted. But as I mentioned earlier, 2 key areas where you think you create the maximum impact. One of the problems that this particular model has is to generate enough margins, or to have large margins that the employees can be paid well, to have enough margins to make sure that the social impact that they're trying to create does not get hampered. Let's then move on to the third model. The third model that we're talking about, as we mentioned earlier, is the suppliers and distributors and providing value in your value chain. So the example that we would be taking is Campo Vivo. What is the problem? In Colombia, it is difficult for potato farmers to get access to the market, to sell the product at a better rate, even in case of competition or storage, they do not have enough facilities to reach the market in time and sell the products. Who are the people who are suffering? These are farmers who have small plots of land, not enough abilities to grow it at a large scale. These are farmers who stay far away from big cities. For them, transportation storage is a problem. And these are farmers who don't technically own their own land, but they plot on somebody else's land and pay the person a rent. Why is this a problem? Potato market is very, very volatile. And if you do have a little understanding of agriculture, it's very volatile also in the case of payment. So a farmer would not always get paid when he's selling his good. It might be after a month or 2 months, which has very, very high or low cash influx in a company. And what are the consequences because of this? That small producers have absolutely no visibility of where the businesses are going. These small producers do not know when are they selling, whom are they selling. They have no security in their business. So what does Campo Vivo do? Campo Vivo buys the harvest from these farmers and is responsible for sourcing it to the market. So they do it in multiple channels. They do it with big supermarkets. They do it with McCain, which produces potato supplies, and other supermarkets where they provide direct access to these farmers. It also provides technical assistance to these farmers to help them get more educated in this entire area of potato farming. It helps them provide expertise in what kind of fertilizers to use, what other products will help them, and also helps them develop entrepreneurial skill if they would like to think on the next level of them just growing potatoes. So if you look at the slide, there's a little small diagram about how is the potato distribution working by Campo Vivo. And this is a very, very simple example of providing market access to your suppliers. Technically, Campo Vivo is looking after the logistics and the market access, the point that this is good at, and the farmers growing potato with the security that they would have a market to sell it in. How does this benefit the suppliers? It benefits the small suppliers by guaranteeing them a market to sell the products, which also then guarantees when the money comes in and when the money doesn't. Getting paid only biannually maybe is not as efficient as getting paid monthly. It provides a continuous income into the family, which helps them look at the future in a brighter and positive way. It also provides additional support and assistance to these farmers in helping them grow their businesses and go in having the right advice to the problems that they have. So what makes this model a good fit as model 3? So if you look at the BMC again, the business model canvas again, Campo Vivo goes in number 1, the key partners. It is the partners that they are partnering with in order to make this business better. For example, this is the supermarkets, the suppliers, the distributors, whom are they selling to? So it's that. And second is the channels. It's like, how are you selling it, and what are you doing that would benefit your suppliers the most? It is very important for you to understand that your role in this particular in this particular value chain is to enhance their abilities. Most certainly in this value chain or model 3, the skills that a business or your business would bring to the table is to enhancing somebody else's skill. You provide value added, or you provide particular services which would make their products better. And it's a very simple way of understanding where do your skills lie. If you think you have the skills to provide better market access to a much smaller company, please, you would be in this model. And the problem area that this model usually faces is getting the right access to market and managing the entire supply chain. You might be motivated. Is everyone else in the value chain motivated to do the same? Yeah. Cool. And then finally, our fourth case study is about Legon poultry. So what is the problem that they're trying to solve? In Haiti, the seaside town of Legon, the town was the epicenter of the earthquake, and more than 90% of the buildings are damaged, schools included. The Haitian government does not have enough funds to rebuild these schools, so clearly the children were suffering. Who are the people who are suffering? Students, children who've been a part of these schools, who do not have money anymore for enrollment fees, who otherwise do not have schools at all to go to. And why is that a problem? Because of the unemployment rate, as we mentioned, 40%, 85% of the populations cannot afford to send their children to school. Even if they can, the governments do not have enough infrastructure to build these schools. So what are the consequences? The quality of the education is very poor. There are very few students who are using this education to grow further and to use them. So what does Legan do? Legan is a business which rears chicken and produces ready to sell poultry products. This poultry farm has a capacity of 7,000 chicken, and they prepare these chickens to be sold in supermarkets or on day-to-day basis. What is the value proposition that they bring to the table? So Legan does one part of the business very, very clearly. They know how to grow their poultry, they know how to sell it. They would use a margin of this particular business to then fund a school, to run a school. There are two very different aspects to it. They are clearly fulfilling a need in the market, which is providing good quality poultry products, which is then funneling into another business model, which is of a school. So they are not only just looking after their business, but they're also providing secondary benefits by the school. They are providing educators with a salary. They're looking after the organization of the school. So they're technically running two businesses. The revenues of the poultry farm go into the school to fund a child's education. Why is this a good model of give back? Because you see that when you make money, you give back. We've mentioned the cause of it before, that what should you be careful about. But a give back model is a great model to work with if you have a very clear expertise and you do not know how to use that expertise into social impact. If you cannot funnel it into your own business model, use it in an already existing business model, as did Legon. So if you go back to the poultry, if we go back to Legan and we look at the BMC for them, they clearly come in the key partners because their partner is the school, which is one of their beneficiaries. And the second would be the cost structure and the channels. So the cost structure, they are working with the costs which work with majority of the population. They are selling it at a better than market rate. They have their business model for the poultry farm well. They have just included their schools and libraries into the key partners. So you see, they've tried to match two business models together. And one of the things that mostly you should be very careful when trying to do this is the money flow. If money doesn't flow here, money doesn't flow there. Simple. And also the scalability, till how big would you have to be to manage both the businesses? You're technically running two of them. So if we would like to sum up our entire lecture, let's go back to the first four models that we spoke about. It is very easy to get lost between them. It is very easy to be confused about which is the best model. But how we would like to look at it is one key metric, the one key indicator that your business is affecting. And if you have considered that, you then place them in different models. There will always be there would always be a overlap between 2 or 3 models, but it is upon the entrepreneur to choose which one is the one which will have his key focus. You can think of different ways of being innovative, but as long as you have your one key indicator, you know the goal that you're working towards. Second, we would highly recommend businesses or even future business or entrepreneurs to look at the one type of beneficiary that you would like to focus. When you have your beneficiary clear in mind, it is much easier for you to figure out the impact that you're working in that person's life. Something that we would like to iterate again and again. No matter how big your social impact is, if the business is not sustainable, it does not matter. You might influence 100 people in a year, But if 1 year is the only time that your business would exist, we would rather have you influence 50 people but go on for 5 years. So your social impact is as important as your being sustainable, and this is the true meaning of being a social business. You are a good business, you have your good social impact. So if we would like to go back into our entire lecture and the things that we've discussed, I would like you to focus after this lecture on what kind of social business does your business focus on. What model are you working with? Do you fall in any of the 4? If you fall in more than one, which one would you like to focus on? Second, what is the impact of your social impact on your BMC, on your business model canvas? Which are the areas that you would like to focus on? Channels, partners, which ones would you like to focus on? And finally, what are the challenges you'll face, not only in trying to figure out your social business, but also the challenges when you place them in your BMC? Would your partners agree? Would you have troubles with that? Once you have that clearly set in, it is much easier for you to understand how do you scale your business. Finally, I would like to say I hope this has been very helpful for you. My email address will be in the slides. If there are any questions that I can take, please let me know. The reading list provided at the end of the lecture would give you more information about the entire world of social business and the things that are happening around the world. Thank you and have a good day.